The grand hall of Caltherian Prime shimmered beneath chandeliers made from the hollowed bones of extinct star leviathans. 12 galaxies bowed before the Galactic King, but he stood with a smirk on his lips and a goblet of fermented stardust wine in hand. He liked theatrics. He liked his robes stitched with nebulous silk and embroidered with the sigils of every empire he'd crushed. He also liked trophies. Today, he paraded 3. The humans were walked in under heavy guard. Their wrists were bound with soft restraints, more ceremonial than practical. After all, the king thought, what threat could 3 Earthborn girls possibly pose? The youngest, about 20, had soft brown curls and a button nose. She squinted at the light like she was unimpressed. The second, freckled and red-haired, stood with one hand resting lazily on her hip, as though this were a fashion show, not a galactic sentencing. The third, with sharp gray eyes and skin the color of morning fog, simply looked up at the king and smiled. That smile lingered too long. It unsettled Minister Rock, who leaned toward the throne and whispered, "Sire, I must again urge caution. These women. They're girls, Rock," the king said with a wine-sweet chuckle. "Petals. Fragile. Delightful in their arrogance, I'll grant them that. But harmless. Sire, each is wed to a human of ambiguous classification." "I know. It's adorable, isn't it?" The king grinned, lifting his goblet. "One of them sent a message. Don't worry, honey. I'll be back in time to make your Tuesday chilly." What a species. So domestic even in defeat. Rock swallowed the rest of his protest. He was old enough to remember the silence of Gormash, when an entire battalion vanished after entering Earth's orbit without authorization. They hadn't left wreckage, just absence. The 3 girls stood together now on the grand dais, their postures relaxed, expressions unreadable. The redhead whispered something to the girl on her left and stifled a laugh. No signs of fear. No pleas. No visible distress. The king rose from his throne. "Subjects of Caltherian," he boomed. "Today, we celebrate our continued dominance over chaos. These 3 representatives of Earth dared to infiltrate a restricted sector under the guise of peace. For their impudence, they shall remain as honored guests in our hospitality wing forever." Scattered applause. Awkward. Even some of the guards seemed confused. The fog-eyed girl raised her hand. The king blinked. "Yes. Just wondering," she said, tone light. "Do we get spy access while we're honored guests? I've heard galactic salt scrubs do wonders for the skin." The hall fell quiet. "Why, yes," the king replied with a forced smile. "Of course." She nodded. "Lovely. I'm due for a facial." Rock's left eye twitched. Later that cycle, in the observation wing, the 3 girls were confined in a transparent containment cube suspended above a garden of bioluminescent fungi. It was beautiful, elegant, secure. "I hate mushrooms," the redhead muttered. "They're glowing mushrooms," the brown-haired girl replied. "Does that change anything?" "Nope. Still fungus. Still gross." "I kinda like them," said the gray-eyed one. "They remind me of Christmas lights. If Christmas involved accidental poisoning." They weren't whispering. They didn't need to. The entire room was monitored, every word cataloged, every breath analyzed by the palace AI. None of it added up. Back in the control chamber, Ensign Thross, a purple-skinned Thrumlack officer with excellent academic scores and 0 real-world wisdom, frowned at the readouts. "They're not stressed," he muttered. "No elevated cortisol. No erratic cardiac patterns. One of them has lower heart rate than a sleeping Glarnak." His superior, Commander Vex, looked over the report. "You think the monitors are faulty?" "No, sir. I think they're calm. Very calm. Maybe humans are just simple," Vex shrugged. "Not all species respond to captivity the same way. Sir, one of them started humming a tune just now. Something called 'Take Me Home, Country Roads.'" Vex stared at the screen. "Oh no," he whispered. "My mate sings that when she's angry. Very angry." That evening, the king hosted a broadcast gala. 1 billion systems tuned in. The girls were paraded once more, this time in ceremonial robes, a gesture of mock respect that did not go unnoticed by human sympathizers across the stars. When asked to speak, the redhead stepped forward. My name's June, she said, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. You kidnapped me from a diplomatic vessel. You paraded me like cattle. You insulted my home. Gasps. She smiled. I'd like to dedicate this moment to my husband. He told me once, if I ever got taken, just stay calm. Let M talk. Let M underestimate you. The brown-haired girl stepped forward. My name's Talia. I was married last year on the cliffs of Patagonia. My husband gave me a coin. Told me if I ever needed him, flip it. I flipped it 2 hours ago. The fog-eyed girl didn't step forward. She just looked into the camera. My name's not important, she said. But he knows my voice. The next day, a disturbance. A scout ship on the outer rim of the Caltherian system lost contact. Then another. Then the beacon station at Vesker Point went silent. The king was mildly annoyed. Coincidence, he declared. Random solar storms. Or pirates. Handle it. The minister's skin had turned an unhealthy gray. Sire, he said carefully, these events match a pattern. The king waved his hand. You worry too much. The fog-eyed girl was meditating in her cube when an insectoid diplomat from the Merithian consortium visited. He stared at her with too many eyes. You do not tremble, he rasped. Nope, she said. Your males, they are wrathful? She shrugged. Depends on the day. He leaned closer to the cube's barrier. One is called the architect, yes? She smiled. That's what the stars call him. I call him Babe. That night, in a dim corridor of the palace, Minister Rock activated a hidden comm beacon. He'd seen enough wars to know when the air shifts. When prey starts looking at predators like they're just meat. This is Rock of Caltherian, he said. Priority warning to all allied worlds. Humans have been insulted. I repeat, humans have been personally insulted. He paused. Gods help us all. By dawn, whispers were spreading across sectors. Entire planets sent quiet messages to Earth. We had no part in this. Other empires began moving fleets, not toward Caltherian, but away from it. The girls were moved to a private chamber. It wasn't meant to be luxurious, but it felt more like a resort than a prison. The guards were nervous now. One of them actually offered Talia a cookie. She declined. The redhead, June, sighed. They're starting to realize, aren't they? Yep, said Talia. The gray-eyed one watched the horizon from her window. Stars shimmered beyond the dome. They're late, she whispered. June cocked her head. Who? My husband. At that moment, far beyond the mapped edge of the Caltherian Empire, 3 ships broke stealth. No transponders. No diplomatic codes. Each flew a single black flag. In the palace war room, klaxons began to shriek. The king dropped his goblet. The girls smiled. The fog-eyed one looked up. There you are, she whispered. The interrogation chamber aboard the Royal Dreadnought Vox Radiant was a cold, sterile cube, suspended in vacuum like a frozen tooth. From the outside, it shimmered faintly against the void. Inside, it smelled faintly of antiseptic and ozone, like a hospital trying too hard to forget what it did at night. June sat cross-legged on the center platform, chewing on a piece of her hair. A beam of light hung directly overhead, casting sharp angles across her freckles and the soft curve of her jaw. Her wrists were still restrained, but loosely. The guards had stopped double-checking the locks. The door hissed open. A new alien entered. This one wasn't armored like the others. No blades, no guns. Just a high collar, soft robes, and a datapad glowing with unreadable symbols. Good morning, he said smoothly, his voice almost silky, like someone selling you something you wouldn't realize you didn't need until it was too late. June tilted her head. Morning? Feels like night. He gave a tight smile. Subject, human. Female. Red hair. Estimated age, 21 Earth Standard. No known combat background. Spouse classified. Name's June, she said, yawning. And my background is none of your business, darling. Do you know where you are? I'm in a floating space cube decorated like a discount dentist's office. The interrogator, a Kelry from the University of Galactic Ethics, didn't blink. Mostly because his species didn't have eyelids. He tapped the datapad. We're trying to understand the human response mechanism. Your kind displays a logical composure under duress. June smiled wide. Duress? Oh, sweetheart, you haven't even started yet. He paused. You're not afraid? I was afraid. When I was 12 and my dog got hit by a sky hauler. After that, fear's been kinda boring. He narrowed his eyes. If your species has defensive protocols, you need to disclose them now. She leaned forward, the smile dropping from her face. Tell me something. Do your wives ever go missing? His throat clicked. I'll take tea, she added brightly. Earl Grey, if you've got it. The interrogator left 10 minutes later, shaking. 2 floors down, Talia was humming in her chamber. The tune was simple, drifting, unmistakably earthborn. Swing low, sweet chariot. She sat at a table set for 2, one wrist cuffed to the polished armrest. Across from her sat Commander Vex, arms crossed. You are very calm, he said. I'm Southern, she replied. He blinked. Is that a combat classification? She laughed. No. It's a place. Earth place. We say thank you too much and hide knives in our smiles. Vex considered her, uncertain. You understand you are a prisoner. She sipped the lukewarm tea they'd finally delivered. Prison's just a waiting room with worse lighting. You've been sentenced to indefinite containment. Your planet has not responded to our transmission. You are alone. She set the cup down softly. I've never been alone. My man's in my corner even if the corner's on fire. Vex stiffened. Your man. He's military. She raised an eyebrow. He's prepared. Name. Talia grinned. You can call him Daddy. The guard at the door coughed violently. Vex rose from his seat. This conversation is over. You didn't even finish your tea. He fled. She stared at his retreating back, like one might study a raccoon trying to open a child-proof lock. In the highest tower of the ship, the last of the 3 girls, the one they only referred to as Subject Fog Eyes, stood at a reinforced glass panel, watching the stars drift by. A shadow moved behind her. She didn't turn. Did you come to ask questions? She said. The figure stepped into the light. It wasn't a soldier. Not quite. Tall, angular, adorned in ceremonial armor that shimmered like oil on water. I am General Katu, he said. Head of Outer Operations. Executor of Planetary Strikes. She turned slowly. Executor, huh? Sounds lonely. Katu ignored the bait. Your husband is referred to in several blacklisted dispatches. He has no known face. No formal record. But whenever his name appears, death follows. She walked toward him, slow, deliberate. You're scared. I am cautious. You should be terrified. He stared at her. We have subdued suns, shattered moons. You are one woman. She stopped inches from his face. And he is my man. Katu exhaled. Tell me his name. She leaned in, whispering near his ear. The last person who asked that tried to scream it out of me. You want to know what happened to him? Katu didn't respond. Me neither, she finished. That night, the palace's external defense grid blinked. Just once. A heartbeat. Enough for one ship to slip through undetected. Just one. Small. Silent. It landed in the shadow of the southern hangar. The guards didn't notice. Not yet. Back aboard the Vox Radiant, the interrogators gathered in the command chamber, shaken. No usable intelligence. No fear. No weaknesses. Just humans sipping tea, making jokes, and occasionally asking for honey. Minister Rock watched the logs again. Every word. Every posture. Then he played June's message from the gala. Just stay calm. Let M talk. Let M underestimate you. He turned to Ensign Thross. Compile all transmissions sent from the cell block. There weren't any, sir. Signals were blocked. No, Rock said slowly, they weren't sending messages. He tapped the replay. They were confirming. The lights flickered. Across the galaxy, a new star appeared. A tiny speck on the edge of Caltherian's territory. Unregistered. Unexplained. The observatory team logged it. Dismissed it. They didn't see the black flag encoded into its spectrum. The Vox Radiant shook. Alarm sirens blared. Systems flickered. Lights flared then died. The three girls were moved to the internal vault as a precaution. Heavily guarded, triple sealed. No comms. No air ducts. Nothing. And yet, at 0300 hours, one guard posted outside the vault dropped dead. No wounds. Just stopped. A tremor rippled through the deck. Commander Vex stormed to the control room. Report. Unknown signal, shouted the tech. Something's broadcasting from inside the vault. Impossible. He pulled up the visual feed. The three girls sat in a circle, playing cards. June glanced up, smiled at the camera, and said, Uno. The feed cut. In the throne room of Caltherion, the king sat stiff-backed, hands trembling around the wine glass he hadn't refilled since yesterday. Rock entered without being announced. They've breached the dreadnought, Rock said, voice brittle. The king opened his mouth, but no words came. Rock stepped closer. And, sire? They didn't come for revenge. They came for demonstration. The king looked at the stars. They're just men. No, your highness, Rock said quietly, turning to leave. They're husbands. Beyond the stratosphere, a second ship breached stealth, trailing silent ripples of gravity and time. Inside it, a man in a gray coat adjusted his gloves. No need for noise, he murmured, eyes calm. We're just here to collect our girls. And Earth was finally whispering back. In the darkness beyond Caltherion's reach, where the maps turned to myth and the stars whispered to each other about monsters, the first ship uncloaked. It wasn't large. It didn't hum with power. It stalked through space like a blade unsheathed, silent, flat, matte black, designed not to shine, but to disappear. No insignias. No name. No broadcast. Inside, a man stood before a wall of glass, his reflection warped by tactical readouts blooming across the surface. He didn't blink. He didn't speak. He didn't move until the data lock confirmed. Location verified. Target vessel, Vox Radiant. Passenger, Talia Spouse. He exhaled once, then turned to the console and pressed a single button. The weapon systems purred like lions stretching after a nap. They called him the architect. No one knew where he was born. No one had ever seen him raise his voice. His enemies vanished not in fire, but in silence. Not even wreckage. Just absence. Like he'd rearranged the universe and removed the mistake that had been their existence. He tapped a new string of commands into the console. Dozens of satellites, long dormant, realigned. They weren't weapons, yet. But they could become anything. That was his specialty. He built the end of wars the way poets built stanzas. He stared out into the void. She asked for Chile on Tuesday, he murmured. Let's keep that schedule. 10,000 light minutes away, a transmission pinged into a station that had long been abandoned. Inside its dusted corridors, something stirred. A drone unit still loyal to a man who once saved its programming from deletion by feeding it jazz records. That man, now lounging with one boot on the dash of a ship shaped like a junkyard on a sugar high, cracked open a bottle of moonshine and grinned. Well, hell, guess we're early. They called him the wild card. To some, he was a failed Marine. To others, a war criminal with a penchant for chaos and raccoon-based surveillance. To his wife, June, he was just Bo. Bo had lost a lot in his time. His eye, his rank, his ability to sit still. But he'd never lost her. And when she vanished from the comm grid 2 weeks ago, he didn't wait for orders. He didn't trust orders. He trusted instinct. And instinct told him to polish his revolvers and make someone's week very unfortunate. Tex, the AI raccoon drone, scuttled up his leg, clicking softly. Yeah, buddy, Bo muttered. It's go time. Bo hit a switch. The engines ignited in a burst of cobalt flame that smelled faintly of desperation and gunpowder. The hull screeched as the ship turned toward the Vox Radiant's last known vector. Hold on, June, he said, his voice slipping into something lower. I got some folks to disappoint. And then there was the Reaper. No one had seen him. Not really. There were blurry photos. Glimpses. Stories passed in back rooms by soldiers who drank too much and lived just long enough to regret it. Some said he was born in a crater. Others swore he wasn't born at all, that he stepped out of the aftermath of Earth's worst day, fully formed and furious. The truth? He had a wife. Gray eyes. Sharp tongue. She called him John. When her signal blinked off the network, he didn't ask permission. He didn't check in. He just stood. He took nothing with him. He didn't need to. His ship didn't run on fuel. It ran on fear. It moved in shadows. It ignored gravity. It didn't fly, it happened. Inside, the Reaper opened a steel case and lifted a blade forged from an asteroid that once collided with a black hole. He checked its edge with a finger. It drew blood. Good. He closed the case and whispered, "Time to collect." The three men moved toward Caltherion like comets with vendettas. The Galactic King didn't know their names. Not truly. But he had heard whispers. In the war archives, redacted reports now glowed with renewed priority. Architect, tactical anomaly. Responsible for collapse of 4 separatist alliances in under 12 hours. Suspected to control black box AIs across known systems. Never captured. Never found. Wild card. Former military asset. Dishonorably discharged for creative insubordination. Survived 11 confirmed assassinations. Once escaped from a black hole in a stolen life raft full of cats. Do not provoke. _Reaper, unlisted. No data. Possibly myth. If confirmed, immediately evacuate. Asterisk. In the throne chamber, Minister Rock laid the reports before the king like funeral cloth. These are the husbands. The king scoffed, but it cracked. This is propaganda. Human bravado. Sir, they're en route. All 3. Different paths. Same destination. They're men, Rock. They're married, sire. The king stood, voice shaking. We have legions. Fleets. Systems. Rock leaned in, voice soft. They don't care. In orbit, the first fleet confronted the architect ship. The architect spoke once. "This is a courtesy," he said. "Leave." The fleet fired. Seconds later, they were gone. No sound. No explosion. Just a sudden emptiness where warships had existed. Rock saw it on the monitor and covered his mouth. In the garden chamber of the Vox Radiant, the 3 girls waited. They'd been moved again, another precaution. This room had no windows. No feeds. Just air, silence, and fear trying to pretend it was steel. June played solitaire. Talia braided her hair. The gray-eyed one paced. "They're close," she said. June didn't look up. "How close?" "I can feel him," she murmured. "You always say that." Talia smiled faintly. She's always right. Suddenly, a low hum vibrated through the floor. Not an alarm. Not mechanical. Something older. The room trembled. The lights dimmed. One by one, the security locks disengaged with soft clinks, like knives being laid on a table. The door opened. No guards. Just a scent, burnt metal and ozone. Talia stood. He's here. Across the quadrant, Bo landed his ship in the maintenance bay without authorization. He didn't need it. The door peeled open before him like a book desperate to be read. Tex scurried ahead, tail glowing. Bo whistled low. "Always said I'd come get you, darlin'. Looks like today's the day." In the control room, chaos erupted. Systems crashing. They're in the ship. How many? The answer came in the form of silence, followed by a voice over the loudspeaker. Calm. Clear. "The Reaper." He said only 4 words. "Bring me my wife." The girls heard it. All 3 froze. Then smiled. June stood slowly. And so it begins. From the throne chamber, the king tried to flee. But the power failed. The AI stuttered. A message appeared across every screen in the empire. A single sentence. "This is not a rescue. This is a message." And in the distance, 3 black ships cast long shadows across Caltherion. They had names once. But now they were simply husbands. The throne room of Caltherion was no longer serene. Alarms blared in strange harmonics. The golden banners of conquest, embroidered with 1,000 alien surrenders, hung lopsided in a draft that should not have existed in a sealed room. Light panels flickered. The air smelled of copper and old fear. The Galactic King sat slumped on his throne, eyes sunken, breath shallow. The weight of his own crown seemed to press into his skull like a verdict. From the shattered doorway, Minister Rock approached, each step hesitant, as if sound itself were a weapon. "They've breached the inner sanctum," Rock said. The king stared at him. "How?" "They didn't knock." The king's fingers twitched. "Defenses. Disabled. Personnel. Missing. Fleet. Gone." A long silence passed, broken only by the hum of something descending from above. A sound like the folding of a continent. And then, without any pageantry or procession, the architect walked in. No cape. No armor. Just a dark coat buttoned neatly to the collar, and eyes that had measured galaxies and found them predictable. He didn't bow. The guards raised their weapons instinctively. A flicker pulsed from his sleeve, and the weapons disassembled in midair, falling in pieces like broken prayers. "Your Majesty," the architect said politely, "your reign has been deemed unsustainable." The king opened his mouth to speak, but his voice betrayed him, cracking beneath the pressure. You don't have the authority." The architect's gaze held his. "I don't need authority. I have clarity." Footsteps echoed behind him, boots heavy, rhythm careless. Bo sauntered in, hands in his pockets, a grin tugging at one corner of his mouth. He stopped by a column, leaned against it, and tipped an invisible hat. "Howdy." Moments later, the temperature dropped. The shadows shifted. The Reaper appeared without sound, without weight, as if he'd always been part of the room, and simply chose to be seen now. His face was half-lit, jaw tense. No weapons drawn, none visible anyway. The king looked between the three, and said the only thing a doomed man ever could. "Please." Bo chuckled. "Oh, we ain't here to hurt you, partner. We're here to make you understand." The architect nodded once, then extended a hand. A holographic map erupted in the air, showing Caltherian's empire, highlighted in red. "Your borders have collapsed." Another flick. Earth's influence spread in soft blue tendrils, delicate yet absolute. "You lost the moment you touched them," the architect said. "You lost the moment you mocked love." The king blinked, uncomprehending. "You thought they were weak because they smiled," Bo added. "That's the thing about humans. We like making folks feel safe. Until they give us a reason not to," the Reaper said, his voice like stone breaking beneath frost. The doors behind them hissed. 3 figures entered, June, Talia, and the gray-eyed woman. Unbound, unharmed, unrushed. June folded her arms. "Well, took you boys long enough." Bo grinned. "Traffic." Talia kissed the architect's cheek. "You remembered Tuesday." "Chilies in a pot," he replied. The gray-eyed woman walked straight to the Reaper and stared up at him. "You came." "I told you I would." "You never say much." "I say what matters." They embraced. And for a second, even the stars outside seemed to still. The king stumbled to his feet. "This is madness. A rescue mission." The architect turned, voice ice. "No. A reckoning." The king backed away. "I have treaties, agreements with the Interstellar Conclave." "They've already signed our charter," June said, inspecting her nails. "Did you know? Earth's quiet, but not stupid." Bo ambled forward, picking up the crown from the floor. He turned it over in his hands like a toy. "Y'all forgot what humans are." "We're apex predators," the architect added, "that learned manners." The king's breath hitched. "What do you want?" The 3 men looked at each other, then at their wives. It was the Reaper who answered. "We want the galaxy to remember that mercy is a choice, not a weakness." The architect lifted his wrist. The map zoomed out, showing not just Caltherian's empire, but countless others, all surrounding the former center of power, all watching, waiting. A single pulse was transmitted. Earth's fleet uncloaked. They hadn't brought warships, they'd brought symbols. Engines too large to comprehend. Drones shaped like stories told to frighten children. Black flags with no sigils. The kind of silence that made gravity lean forward to listen. From the edges of every screen across the galaxy, a message appeared in every language. "This is your only warning." The king fell to his knees. "You can't rule through fear." "We don't," said the architect. "We rule through proof." June stepped forward. "This isn't about war. It's about math. You make one of us disappear, we make your entire empire irrelevant. Bo tossed the crown in the air, caught it, and walked it back to the throne. Sit down, he said softly. The king did. This is what's gonna happen. You'll release all human prisoners. Dismantle every forward installation. Issue a public apology. And then you'll disappear for a while. Tell M you're reflecting. Taking time to grow. You'll say Earth showed you another way, editoria. Because we did. The king swallowed. And if I don't? The Reaper stepped forward. Bo caught him gently by the shoulder. He's not great at metaphors. So I'll say it simple. He leaned in. If you don't, we won't come back mad. We'll come back married. A pause. Married men, Bo continued, ain't got nothing left to lose. We already won. The king sobbed. The architect transmitted a final sequence. Every enslaved race in Caltherian's empire felt their chains dissolve, figuratively and literally. Systems flickered. Guards laid down arms. Entire bureaucracies folded like paper cranes at a funeral. The king was left alone in his palace. 3 couples stood before him. We're not the monsters, June said. We just love harder than you expected. We gave you a chance, Talia added. And you turned it into a warning. The gray-eyed woman looked down at the king. Consider this humanity's final offer. The lights dimmed. The signal cut. And the 3 ships departed together, trailing silence. Behind them, the empire unraveled like a sweater caught on the edge of history. And above them, Earth exhaled. The galaxy would never forget.